Welcome back to How to Tickle Yourself. I'm your host, Duff McDonald, along with my co-host, Matt McButter. I'm going to describe today's guest using one of my favorite words, and I don't mean it in a pejorative sense. He's a maniac. Beyond that, he's a little hard to describe. He spent the majority of his adult life helping build brands that sell beauty and personal care products to the masses. Weight loss systems, workout devices, skin and hair care products, hair loss prevention, and cosmetics. The founder of his own ad agency, he's directed commercials starring the likes of J-Lo, Cindy Crawford, Paris Hilton, Serena Williams, and a who's who of Olympians and fitness gurus. He makes infomercials, and he's proud of it. During COVID, he launched a podcast, just like us, called As Not Seen on TV. But he's just written an autobiography, and that's what gets us to the most interesting thing about the guy. He, as you can see, if you're looking at this, he's covered in tattoos, 125,000 worth of tattoos, give or take. And his book is the story of his life as told through his tattoos. It's called Under My Skin. Get it? One of the things I hope we're going to talk about today is that tattoos can tickle. I don't mean the needle itself. That doesn't tickle. While I have only one tattoo myself, I can testify to that fact with confidence. What I'm talking about, though, is about how healthy obsessions can tickle, the things that give us joy, and how covering your body in tattoos can even tickle your soul. He's also the founder of a men's skincare line called Derm Dude, but we'll get back to that in a bit here. Let's get him talking. Drew Plotkin, welcome to the show.
I need you with me, just so when people ask me what I do, I could just point, and then I could just sit and have a drink, and, you know, by the time you're done, people will actually think I'm somebody remotely impressive or that they don't want to run from.
At the present moment, traveling town to town, the mystery of the motion, right here, right now, right here, right now, whoa, right here, right now.
Well, let's start with the impressive set. We were saying just before we got on here, you've got the best looking set of anyone we've ever interviewed. Where are you?
So we're in Los Angeles, California. That's where I built my agency, launched DRTV, that for about 20 years really helped develop and run a lot of skincare brands, beauty brands, wellness brands, health and fitness. So, you know, I worked with, you know, Tony Horton, who was the P90X guy. I worked with Jillian Michaels, Richard Simmons, all of the fitness people out there, and a bunch of devices that you have seen over the years, and ab machines, and then quite a bit of, as you mentioned, skincare and other types of brands, personal care, wellness, and, you know, worked with directing Cindy Crawford, J-Lo. Paris Hilton was one of the first commercials I ever directed, and I still thought on the way to the shoot they were going to call me and say they hired the wrong guy. It was a mistake. You know, so all things work out as it turns out. So this is our HQ, and then about a year and a half ago said it's time for Derm Dude. And after really being, you know, 80% of everything I was doing for years was skincare, personal care, hair care for women. I was like, hey man, I'm turning 50. I want something for my tattoos. I want something for my beard. You know, even though, you know, had been in a divorce, I still ended up with my balls somehow that I got to keep. So, at least as of now. So I figured I had something to, you know, reward them for being loyal.
We're actually, after this interview is done, we're going to check in with our man on the street, Crazy Legs Conti, who, Derm Dude, you guys sent him some, he's got a beard like yours, and he also has balls, so he's tested those products. We're going to talk to him about that. But let's talk about Derm Dude. You guys sent me a couple. My favorite product is the Ballgasmic Sack Wash with activated charcoal. And I didn't even read the ingredients, but all I can say is that when I use it in the shower, it smells like I'm a man. And it made me feel like a man.
That's we literally still get emails and texts and people post and say the best thing about your brand is when I found out how amazing the products really are, or that it's a real brand, that these are real products, because, part of our brand and part of being guys is, we want people to laugh. And part of it is, in order to really inform, I don't try to educate people about anything. I think that's boring. I never enjoyed being educated. I'm sure the educators certainly didn't enjoy having me in their presence. But I like being informed. I like learning new things. I like finding out interesting things that I never even thought that I didn't know. But wanted to know or needed to know. So we do a lot of things that are intentional to make someone laugh, but also we want to have fun. I want to have fun. I was in the Hollywood rat race for 20 years, and some of it was fun. Some of it was misery. Dealing with agents and managers, and some celebrities are great and others not so much. And, it's just one of those things that for Derm Dude, I said, hey, man, this is ours. We really can do it our way every step of the way. We just launched a brand new product last week. And because our best selling product that went viral on TikTok is called Happy Sack Nut Love. You have that one there, hopefully. That's our cooling cream.
I put some on about an hour ago.
Okay. And how are you feeling?
I told my wife I was putting it on, and she was psyched. So
she said, come home for lunch today, hon.
Yeah, I'm feeling good about it. And actually, it feels great. And it smells good too.
So thank you. And that's a big part of it. So we want all of our products to, every single one of them is formulated in a way that has a very specific, deliberate purpose from the outset. So with Happy Sack Nut Love Cooling Cream, yes. Does the name make you look? Is it fun? Is it funny? Yeah, it is great. And I'm glad that helps people look. But once they look and realize, and they look at the ingredients and they try it and they say, wow, this instantly cools. Like it does. It instantly cools right when you put it on. Mm-hmm. And that's because we have cucumber in there. It has Deoplex, which is a phenomenal natural deodorizer. It has chamomile extract. We have ingredients in all of our products that are gentle, calm, and soothing, specifically for the sack. So if you end your pH balanced for the sack, which is, the most sensitive part on your body. I used to think it was my heart and my little spirit, but no, it's actually your sack is the most sensitive skin on your body. And so, and then we want it to smell great. So if someone's saying, hey, I'm just going to take my regular aftershave cologne and put it down there, good luck with that, bud. You might get a little hot burning sensation that you didn't want. There's a reason our products are formulated for that part of the body, and the smell is a big part of it. We just launched our holiday scent, so now we have jingle. You can deck the balls with our candy cane scent. We have pumpkin pie. We have gingerbread for your sack. So, great smelling balls is a win-win. Let's face it, right? Your wife's excited that you're using it. Everybody comes out a winner. But I was going to say, where I went off on a tangent is when I said Happy Sack and making people laugh. We launched our newest product last week, which is called Happy Crack. And that is a deodorizing spray for, as you can imagine, the caboose. And one of our slug lines, we started to sell right away. And I looked at it and I said, hey, some of our best customers are real assholes. And for Happy Crack, that's true. And that became our new slug line. So, and we also say that Happy Crack is the perfect gift for your favorite asshole. And hey, this stuff writes itself.
I've been wondering, not to give too much away about my own personal situation, but I've always wondered.
Swamp ass back there, right? It's okay, Dan. You're among friends. If you got some swamp ass, we can talk about it.
No, the older I get. And I've talked to some other, some buddies and guys I play hockey with and stuff. And everyone says pretty much the older you get, the more your swamp ass. Like I never used to when I was younger, sometimes like in the middle of the day, not after having taken a shit, but just have to like midday, wipe my ass.
Right. Right.
And I've always thought if, you know what? Oscar, this is awesome. Leave it in. but that's our editor. But I've always wondered, I'm like, why isn't there something you can just like a little like,
well, there you go.
Ass
you got Drew Plotkin riding to the rescue here, dude.
I'll be your ass man. Well, look, one of the things about getting older is, and to step back for a second, medically speaking, as a non-doctor, perhaps you just need to wipe a little better the first time around. I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
Possible. It's possible.
Oscar, leave that in, buddy. Leave that in, man. Oscar.
No, here's the thing, Drew. If we're gonna go down this rabbit hole, so to speak,
this hole,
I'm gonna say I am thorough. Like I am thorough as a bunny rabbit. I don't know what's something that's thorough. Like I detail oriented. Doesn't matter. It's I feel like it's age and age
does age. And I was joking about that white better, but as far as age impacts us in so many ways, guys. And I turned 50 recently. That was a huge part of my motivating factor for launching Derm Dude as I was getting closer to 50. And the reality is that your bodies do change. I joke and call it menopause. Women have menopause, we have menopause, but there's a lot of medical science to suggest it hasn't been labeled as such, but you can really genuinely say that the changes that do happen in our bodies as we get older as guys are very real. It's a scientific fact. First of all, our skin cell turnover rate slows dramatically. It also does with women, but it happens with guys. So we're replenishing our skin cells at a much slower rate than when we were younger. We naturally have less testosterone. Now, again, you can do injections. Hopefully, if you do, you're with a doctor. You can do supplementation. You can do various things, but your pituitary gland is putting out less growth hormone. All of the things that our body starts out as a fountain of youth when we're born and as we're growing, but after roughly age 18 to 20, we really start to go backwards on pretty much everything naturally, unless we do things to help reverse those retreating levels, or both at the same time do things to address what's happening within our bodies because of that. I sweat dramatically more now than I ever used to as I've gotten older. And what is sweat going to do? It leads to bacteria. It leads to more odors if you don't take care of it, if you're not changing the products or using products that are really designed for someone who's 50 versus someone who's 20 or so on and so forth at different parts of their life. So it's not accidental, and I think it's good. I mean, part of making people laugh and having some fun. We don't make fun of anyone. If we make fun of anyone, it's me. I'd rather be self-deprecating, but we don't make fun of anyone. We try to be real, and we try to lighten the mood so there's not a stigma about talking about smelly balls or your butt crack. One of the most Googled terms in regards to taking care of your balls is smelly balls. And it's not people having a laugh. It's guys and girls.
Wow.
Girls who are dating guys or married to guys and thinking like, how do I bring this up to someone? What's normal? What's not? And these are things that women have had products for years, forever. And they're taught about it from a young age by their mothers or by their grandmothers or whatever else it is, or they can learn about it on the internet. For guys, nobody ever talked about that. When I was a kid and I was dirty, my dad say, get your ass in the shower. If I came out and I was still dirty, he'd say, get back in there. It's not like he was walking you through proper care the way that a parent might with a daughter and women do and things like that. So I think it's great that we're talking about these things and that we have real products for them that do what they're supposed to do.
On which note, Matt, I just held up there the refreshing deodorizer spray for your balls is called Amaze Balls. You could just shoot a spray down there. One in the front, get the one for the back, and you're all set. All right.
Amazing. I'm going to give those a try for sure.
Moving right along. I'm going to say something to you here, Drew. You and I have something in common that I am almost entirely sure that you have in common with no one else on this earth.
All right.
We both turned down interviews for the Framing Britney Spears documentary.
Really? That's great, man. Tell me what happened with you.
I wrote a piece years ago, like 20 years ago, called The Britney Spears Economy, where it was for a business magazine called Portfolio, where we tried to put like a number on. It was at peak fame, and we sort of tried to put a number on sort of the economy around her. A lot of gossip magazine stuffs, but like music, perfume, sponsorships, everything. And so it was 20 years ago, and they called me, whenever it was they were working on the recent documentary, and they're like, "We really want to talk to you about this. Will you do that? Will you tell us about the economy?" And I was like, "Listen, I got to break something to you. We made everything up in that story, right? There's no such thing as a Britney Spears economy. And also that poor girl doesn't need more people, talking about her troubles." So I said no, just like you said no.
Yeah, that's really the gist of it. I mean, I say in the book that, I was up front when the opportunity came up on my podcast to do an interview with her brother, and they told me there was a conservatorship and that he would speak, and that, the family never speaks. And I just said, I don't even know 2 of her songs, the names of them. And I really had said, fine, I'll talk to the guy for 5-10 minutes, but I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So if this is boring or makes no sense, let him know in advance. I'm not committing to putting the podcast out there. And then we did the podcast like a day or 2 later, and I realized that, all right, there's much more to it. Something's very, off within this family. And I'd been reading over those last couple of days and catching up on the whole Free Britney movement and what a massive, worldwide story this was. And then we put the podcast out and went to bed, and I woke up the next morning and I was getting texts and emails from people I hadn't spoken with in 30 years who tracked me down, and every media outlet around the country had run the podcast that I did with her brother, Brian Spears. And I was like, what is going on? And then, so that's then when we really dug in. I went to some of the courthouse demonstrations, the Free Britney rallies, and started to look at more and more of what was happening. And as all these documentaries started reaching out, I had the same reaction and response you did. They wanted to use the footage, and they wanted to, shoot an interview with me for it. And I just said, this kid, Britney Spears, I mean, kid to me, she's a lot younger. She was a kid growing up when the media skewered her and tormented her. I go, she doesn't need anyone, throwing, more fuel on the fire. I mean, she's clearly been through hell and back. And I just didn't want to be, in that position to be misquoted, misrepresented. I didn't want the footage that we shot to be misrepresented in someone else's hands. So I said no. And then, whatever it was, months later, people started coming up to me saying, "You're in that movie, the Framing Britney Spears movie." I said, "No, I'm not." I said no. I said no to everyone, including them. I said, "No, you're in it." So they took the interview anyway from the internet and used it. But, I'm glad, because in the context that it was used, and overall the movie that they did ended up being a big push towards getting her out of that conservatorship for, you call a lot of things.
You talk about getting all the calls in the morning. I have been a journalist and a writer for 30 years. I have never gotten more interview requests, TV interviews. Someone even asked me to write a book just because it was about Britney. It's unbelievable, that power of celebrity. I've written a bunch of things I think I'm proud of, and the most popular thing, that was it. Just something that had Britney's name in it.
One of the things
how big do you think the Britney economy is?
Well, it's interesting. It was, at the time I estimated it at 110 million, but that was a long time ago. Wait, let's talk tattoos. Let's talk tattoos,
right.
Drew.
We're moving off Britney. We're moving to tattoos.
Yeah. Okay. So, your book's really interesting. It's basically an autobiography, but,
so you got to put yourself naked on the cover of a book with just your junk covered.
I'm going to show this closer to the camera. So that's Drew right there. And it's like, we all need a framing mechanism when we write stuff. Like, how do you get into a thing? And the sort of telling your story through your tattoos was pretty compelling. And, you have a line in there that sort of summarizes it all. It says, "What's imprinted on my skin is my closest understanding of what's actually under my skin." So, we don't need a book length answer, but, why tattoos? Why are tattoos the way to tell your story?
When you said that quote from the book just there, I'll be honest with you. I got chills and little goosebumps hearing you say it, because the truth of the matter is that line in the book, probably I wrote maybe the day before we said we're done, we're locked. And the book was supposed to take 3 months to write. It took me 13 months because I went so deep and was so raw and open about things that in many cases I hadn't shared with a single person in my life. And quite a few of them, not things that you run around and say, isn't this great? This happened to me, because some of them weren't. And it really was, I literally at the end was going back, reading through it, and I wrote that line about that I finally learned some things about myself with what I put on my skin all these years, was what ultimately gave me the first real glimpse into what is under my skin. And, ironically, the title of the book probably didn't answer your question and maybe wasn't as brief as you wanted, but at least your journalistic skills came through, because you gave me goosebumps reciting a line from my own damn book.
So you don't count them because they bleed into each other. And also, what's the fucking point? We're very anti-counting here on How to Tickle Yourself. Why do I have one tattoo, and like you said in the book, you either you start thinking about your next one. I've entertained it, but I certainly didn't catch the bug. Why? For the non-tattoo people listening, what happens? You got one, and the next thing you know, you've got $100,000 plus worth of tattoos. What is it about it that leads one to do that, to make that one of your obsessions?
There's certainly different approaches people have. There's some people where it really is strictly more of an art form, and some people have incredible tattoos and they kind of consider themselves a work of art. And I would agree, some of the tattoos I've seen on people really are. I'm the opposite. I refer to myself as a giant Post-it note. I say I'm a big scratch pad more than a masterpiece. For me, this has really been therapy my whole life. And I didn't think of it that way starting out, but I don't think most people wake up one day and say, I need therapy, and run to a therapist. It's something that you find you're going through certain parts of life over and over again, asking yourself similar questions, or finding yourself having certain feelings that you're not able to really address in a way that satisfies you. And then maybe you say, I'm going to go speak to someone. Well, for me, it really started out with the first tattoo was intended to address a feeling I had inside that I wasn't quite sure how to address it. So the design, the topic, the piece itself, and that is what pulled me and called to me. Just like someone else might be pulled to continue expanding on a work of art, to me, every time something meaningful, and it could be something really great and celebratory, it could be something that is not so great or really outright shitty, but that I didn't want to whitewash, or I don't know what the term is, hide under the hood and act like never happened. So I wanted there to be a forced reality of truth behind recording my own journey. I didn't want there to be able to be revisionist history, something that you cross out or throw away the page and it never happened. So, I say that my tattoos for me have been, a link to the past, part of my present, and a guide to my future. For real, without trying to be too hokey or philosophical.
You mentioned.
Are you crying, Duff? Are you getting teary-eyed?
No, but interestingly, I'm on to the heaviest part of your book. You mentioned stuff you didn't want to pretend never happened. There's a shocker in your book where you walk in on your father trying to kill himself, and. Yeah. So you deal with that at length in there. And I gather, if memory serves, you didn't tell a lot of people about that for most of your life. Is it debuting in the book?
Yeah, I was 13. And when I walked in on him when he was 13, he had already tried. So I found him afterwards. And, then there was the whole, 911 process and everything that comes after. And he survived that time. And no, I never told anyone about that. And I don't blame it. First of all, the thing about mental health and suicide and all of those things is, you get these couch ninjas and these people out there that are so quick to judge, and of all the things in the world to be critical of and judge, to do that with mental health issues. We're talking about, bad math, 40 years ago. I don't know, I was 13 years old. I'm 50 now, so do the math. This wasn't something that was talked about. I mean, my parents or my mother would have had to have been the most progressive person. I don't even know that therapists back then would have said, you should really go to school and tell your friends about this. Make sure your teachers know what happened. So if you're acting out, it wasn't. And then, you're also trying to be respectful of the person who, in this case, survived at that time. They have to, go to the grocery store over the weekend and bump into neighbors and colleagues at work and friends. And what are their wishes? So, bottom line is when you're 13, you're not thinking of it in that level. You're told, we don't talk about this. And you're like, okay. But I understand at that point in time why that was certainly what most people would have done and said. But the net was that certainly I went through, a huge part of my life with that, I guess, under the hood, you would say,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. From a little farther on in the book, you're talking about being in college and not knowing, what the hell you were all about. And I think my favorite line in the whole book, because I think every single person in our Western culture sort of has to realize this at some point, or else you're suffering, is you said, I was still young and moronic enough to think life was a competition against other people rather than myself.
Yeah.
And, we're so much about comparing and ranking and all this stuff where we feel inferior, and finding out, that it's there. There's a singer, his name's Aaron Lee Tasjan. I'm going to blank on it right now. He's got a song about this where he's like, it's the only person you need to do better than is yourself. I don't know why. I don't know if I had a question there. You were, you're a irreverent writer, but you got in the flow. So you land on all these nice, deep insights every couple pages, which
what's
made
interesting. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
What's interesting about the quote that you brought up, and I don't know if it's called a colloquialism, if I'm even saying that right. Big words are not my thing. I already made a note of pejorative. You used it in the intro, and I'm going to look that one up after. For all I know, you called me an asshole in some foreign language, and I'm sitting there smiling. You're like, pejorative. I'm like, that's me. Yeah, man. I'm like, it's probably like, in Swahili, like, stupid dickhead with tattoos, and I'm smiling. But having said that, I'm looking at Dan now, and all I could think about is how thorough he is cleaning his asshole. I'm sorry. I need a fresh visual.
Matt. No, Dan. No, it's Dan is the other guy who was talking earlier.
Dan's your alter ego.
That wasn't me.
All right.
Yeah.
Matt's the thorough. But that thing about that the race is only against yourself. I was hesitant to include that. I had to, because it's real and it's authentically where I'm at. The problem is, if I said that to any of my kids, my 15-year-old daughter, certainly any of my younger kids, if I even say that to 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds, most that I know will just look at me and be like, yeah. And if Jimmy jumped off the Brooklyn Bridge, would you do it as well? It's kind of like falls into that bucket of the same damn sayings that you've heard your whole life. But once you have lived and have gone through it, man, that whole statement about life being
it's
only
wisdom.
in competition against yourself.
Yeah, the problem is it's wisdom, and wisdom is wasted on the young. That's why you're totally right.
You mentioned the songwriter, so I feel necessary and almost obligated, I think legally, as someone from the great nation of New Jersey myself, to reference the philosopher, poet, and artist known as Bruce Springsteen. And when he was often asked about, some of his lyrics and his favorite songs and best songs and this and that, he would very often say that his lyrics got better and better and better as he got older, because he lived more and more and more, and he had more of life's experience to genuinely, authentically authentically draw from. And maybe a musician can move quicker and, wail on the guitar, hit the drums much harder when you're younger and have more energy. And maybe you haven't had, 12 wrist surgeries like, Mighty Max Weinberg, also from the Springsteen E Street Band. I don't get paid for that. It's just doing a podcast next week with someone who has a Springsteen podcast. So there are freaks out there more than me.
All right. So I got a tip for you. I went to the opening of the Bob Dylan Center in Tulsa in the spring. I don't know if they still have it there, but at the Woody Guthrie Center, they had a Springsteen exhibit that was mind-blowing. It was all the live shows.
He's done a ton of Woody Guthrie covers and really is one of his big influences, along with Dylan. Springsteen talks about Woody Guthrie, Dylan, and he did the whole Seeger Sessions tour that was covering a lot of classics.
So I was going to bring up Springsteen because I am stuck on one tattoo. And you're talking in the book about Drew's got a couple of Springsteen tattoos, Matt. And I realized that I think if my next one has to be Dylan related, because your Springsteen obsession is equal to my Dylan obsession. Other than the fact that we're not from the same place. Drew got, he was on 60 Minutes, Matt. They identified him as a stalker at a Springsteen concert. He's a maniac.
I think they're using hyperbole. There's another big word, but I'm pretty sure it was intended as hyperbole because the whole 60 Minutes piece was about Springsteen and his fan phenomenon. And I happened to be at a concert in, Kilkenny, Ireland, because when you live in California, you go to Ireland to see Springsteen. And I didn't realize that 60 Minutes was there doing a story. So I was like in the big crowd of the Irish, 3 people from the stage because we'd been camped out to get up front and with a big American flag. It's Ireland, so I'm the only one with a big American flag and a big sign that says I'm from Freehold, New Jersey. And somehow 60 Minutes was there and took a piece of that. And as the reporter in the story says, some boss crazy fans even stalk him halfway around the world. And they show a picture of me jumping up with my sign and my American flag in Ireland. Like, I guess there's worse ways to be referred to as a stalker.
Right. Also, get in the same sentence as Bruce Springsteen on national television. It's good enough.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if showing up at a concert is considered stalking with that sign. I mean, if you showed up at his house with that sign.
I think it'd be trespassing too. Probably stalking, trespassing, felony, something. I don't know. I'd have to look up what it falls under, but
you've got a bunch of cool tattoos. Let's talk about a few. My favorite word, one with words was I forget what language it was in. They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds.
Yeah, that's in Spanish on my shoulder. It was a Mexican proverb, and people started saying it after the government brutally, for no reason, assassinated their own citizens, a bunch of students, and that became a rallying cry. And the phrase itself actually dates back to a Greek poet, philosopher. I won't be able to pronounce his name. And originally in Greek, and he was writing it about, it's believed to be that he was gay, and, how fearful he lived in that time. Imagine way back then. Imagine today, the challenges that people face, but way back then. So that was the same thing. The quote meant the same thing, that they tried to bury us. They forgot we were seeds. So I like the words and the meaning for a lot of purposes.
And you do you have 4 kids, and they're part of, in my book that I wrote during quarantine, Tickled, I basically couldn't contain myself talking about how much I love my wife and daughter. And reading your book, it was a little reminiscent of that. He has a line in there, Matt, where he says he's absolutely sure that no one on earth loves their children more than he loves his own children. I beg to differ.
Yeah.
How are we going to figure that out? But you've got
how many tattoos do you have of your kids on you, buddy? Come on.
You can measure it, Duff. You can count. Some people can count these things.
So you got a bunch of tattoos of your kids. I love your Ganesh one. Is that a big one? Where is that?
It's on my side of my lower ankle. It's not huge because what happens with tattoos, I won't go too technical, but the more detail that you get, the more time it's going to take as well. So if you want something super, super detailed and you're trying to keep it, in a half day session or even a full day session, you can only go so big versus, and again, it's all style and taste. This is where the whole money thing comes up about tattoos. And if you ever want to get like people responding passionately, even people who don't have tattoos and will never have a tattoo, the two topics are pain, which ones hurt more, and the cost of tattoos. And, you get people say, oh, this guy spent all that money on his tattoos. I could get my whole arm covered for $500. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm not going to criticize your art, but it's all relative. I'm not saying spending money is necessarily the only way to do it, but generally speaking, it's like anything else in life. The better artists do usually cost more money, takes more time, So I've tried to do most of my tattoos where some of them only take an hour or two, but like the Ganesh took a full day session. I didn't want it to be where I would have to leave, let it heal, and then come back a month later and finish it. And in this case, the artist who did it was leaving the country anyway. So there's all these factors that go into it. I did a tattoo.
And you'd need some tattoo aftercare products for that. Where can someone find that?
I mean, some sick bastard may have even made a tattoo aftercare bomb called Nuclear Bomb. But yeah, that was the genesis. That was the very first product in Derm Dude. It was coming back from Bali. I had what I call a near miss experience of a almost infected tattoo because I didn't have proper aftercare. I also was an absolute moron and hiked a active volcano 12 hours after getting a new tattoo. So putting volcanic ash and dust in a new tattoo is not really recommended. But having been in skincare for 20 years, it just became a natural fit. And we developed our own tattoo line of products. And then I didn't have a great beard. I always had like a patchy, itchy, kind of crappy beard, and I wanted a fuller beard. So we went right into our beard line and made a really great beard line of products by testing on myself as the guinea pig. And then we launched our ball line, and no pun intended, man, but balls is big. It's just I'd never really done TikTok. I learned it from my 6-year-old twins as they were playing on a phone, and we started doing some TikTok sitting right here. And I was talking to a buddy for about 30 seconds about our ball line, and someone recorded on it. 30 seconds, me just sitting there. You hear the guy in the background, oh, that's cool. Yeah. Why'd you name it, Ballgasmic? What's in it? Why'd you name it Happy Sack Nut Love? And just being real. And that video has 5.5 million views and went viral, and kind of, it really, and fair to say, put us on the map, the sack map.
So, running a little short on time here, wrapping up. I've got one other thing I wanted to talk about. You're talking about you had a telemarketing job post college, and one of the lessons that you took from it. We had my favorite writer in the world on here a while ago. His name's Rich Cohen. His father is Herbie Cohen, who wrote the book You Can Negotiate Anything from the 70s. And it's right up there. It's called The Adventures of Herbie Cohen. And one of the lessons his dad told him is he was like, you got to treat life like a game because it's way more fun that way. And one of your lessons was to find motivation through gamification, right? Don't get bummed when something doesn't go well, turn it into, that loss is leading to the next win. It's just brought me one step closer to my next win. I had to get the loss out of the way. And I get that feeling from the stuff with Derm Dude, but just also the whole tone of your book is that you have tried to stay amused by life rather than take it so fucking seriously. And, kudos. Because I think that comes through loud and clear in the book that, it's all up to us, right? We can make it fun. You can make it fun if you want. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But, why would you make that call?
I think you hit it right on the head. Look, I believe the human mind and science has proven is far more capable and has far more potential than we even give it credit for, and we have a lot more control over that than we tend to realize or exercise. So that's one thing that I've learned myself and try to remind myself of daily, that I do have a lot more control over my emotions and my moods and my feelings, versus just saying, well, that happened and that's shitty, who wouldn't be sad? I get it, but that's the wrong mentality. Life is full of peaks and valleys. I've never met anyone who only lives in peaks. And, to me, it's what I can take away from the valleys and what helps pull me out of the valleys that really gets me back to the peaks. And that's been part of my own, methodology. So I agree with that. And I look at that and say, having a strong, positive mental outlook, it's not fluff, it's not bullshitting yourself, it's not walking around with a fake rosy smile every day saying, oh, I just lost my job and I stepped in a big puddle and my car got stolen. This is the best fucking day ever. That's not at all what I'm saying. It goes back to what you really said, in what you were looking at about having the right mindset and choosing what you want to take away from something in a positive way.
Yeah. And the point I was making is one that I've sort of stumbled on recently, which is you can look at a thing and say, oh, that thing sucks. And it's like, well, having just gone through that, I'm now closer to something much better than that. It's like, we can fixate on something, or we could look on the other side of it. And, the book, listeners, Under My Skin, Bearing It All, One Tattoo at a Time. It's really interesting. There's some fucked up stories in there. There's some great tattoos, but also some basic sort of street wisdom. Drew Plotkin is a world record holding rule breaker. I think self-described. Derm Dude is the sack wash is amazing. I recommend it to anyone. Matt, you should get some. But also you need the stuff for your back door. But it's just a really inspiring story. And it's been great to hear it all, have you on, read the book, and to talk to someone who's got such an entertaining outlook on life.
I appreciate it, Duff. Thanks for having me. Matt, thanks for weighing in on such critical topics of epic proportion. And Oscar, you're doing great, buddy. Leave that in.
Cheers. Thanks, Drew.
Cheers.
All right, guys. Rock and roll.
So, Drew Plotkin, he's a bit of a badass.
Is he ever?
We didn't even get into some of his crazy stories. He, when he was 16, he interviewed another teenager on death row. He was a journalist before he got into all this stuff in marketing and his ad agency, and had a public access television show in his high school about death row. And people who got convicted and stuff like that. So,
it sounds like a crazy story. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit before the interview. So, we're gonna have to let our listeners pick up a copy of the book to check
Under My
story
Skin.
out.
It's good stuff. And the Derm Dude product. We've I've started using men's skincare. My ex-wife's husband is the co-founder of a skincare line. We're going to have him on here soon. So I do face wash and stuff now. Never did my whole life. So quite seriously, even though the names of it are hilarious, the sack wash, and I know like my mom may be getting scandalized at this point, but like it's good stuff, and you never really pay attention to that. So and it smells like an old school barber shop. It's great.
I should pay more attention to that stuff because, my toiletries kit is deodorant, razor, shaving cream, toothbrush, toothpaste.
Oh yeah, no, I can. I got to when I travel now. I've got my face wash, my morning cream, my night cream, my eye cream, my Brill cream.
Well, look at you.
I use Brill cream.
You use a little dabble, do you?
A little dabble, do you? I actually said that to Joey this morning when I was putting it on. So anyway, to anyone who's listening, it's actually a great product. And the sack wash is hilarious too, because it's charcoal activated, so it's black. So you squeeze out of the bottle, and then you've got a handful of black soap that you're
interesting.
In any case, and the soothing cream feels great.
So
do you have any tattoos? We didn't even talk about this.
I've got if I'm counting my tattoos, it's 0. And Deb has 1, and hers is just around her big toe, like a little ring around her big toe. It's about as non-tattoo committal as you could possibly get.
Drew talks in the book about there's some threshold tattoos that you get, right? So most people that start do it in a place that, if need be, it can be hidden.
Yeah.
And, as you continue down the line, they move farther and farther. So he was talking about when he got the first one on his hand, he was like, that was the, fuck you, corporate world. I'm never getting a real corporate job, ever tattoo. And then when he got the first one on his neck, it was saying to the world, I don't care what you think. So you sort of emerge out of your tattoo shell. Mine is, where is it? Right there. Like, it's not hidden, but it's not in your face.
No, you can roll down your sleeves if you want to go corporate.
If I need to go to a board meeting or something.
Yeah.
So
on just on the one more thing on the topic of tattoos. One of Daphne's teachers, I actually ran into him the other day on the street. He had kind of an interesting story where his way of telling his story too is all of his travels, he would get a different tattoo that was something meaningful of the place that he would travel. So being a teacher, he'd get his summers off. And like one year he'd go to, Vietnam, and he'd get some tattoo of something, about sort of like local Vietnamese.
Right.
Something could be like a writer or like a book or something like that, artwork, maybe like the outline of the country. And so he sort of decorated himself, and I think he continues to do it. At the time, like when Daphne had him, that was over 10 years ago. I think he had 30 travel tattoos or something. So
Drew's got
cool.
Some quotes from other people who have tattoos in there. He's got one like elementary school teacher talking about getting all these different tattoos. His is about his journeys, but it's more like a personal journey, right?
Yeah. And reminiscent of, did you ever read, it was a book of short stories by Ray Bradbury called The Illustrated Man? You familiar with it?
No.
And one of the short stories in there was The Illustrated Man. And he was it's been a long time, and it's probably it's like a 20-page little short story, but it was something like maybe a circus performer. And at night, his tattoos would actually come to life and would sort of animate, and they would tell stories. And I think maybe the narrator sees basically like the story of his own tragic death or something like that. Pretty cool. Bradbury.
Illustrated Man, Ray Bradbury. All right.
Check it out.
On that note, let us delay no longer, because I'm sure everybody has been dying to hear what our man on the street, Crazy Legs Conti, has to say about Derm Dude products. Let's check in with him. All right, so this is a first for How to Tickle Yourself. We're here with Crazy Legs Conti doing our first man on the street product review of Derm Dude products. We had Drew's people send Crazy Legs a care package of a bunch of stuff, and he's here to tell us what it's all about. What's up, Crazy Legs?
Oh, honored to be here. And one thing you should know is I had a full beard up till 2 days ago. I went to a 90s ethically non-monogamous party. My only 90s culture touchstone was the dude. So I dressed as the dude. So now I'm actually relying on Derm Dude to fill in everything over here to get back to a beard. But I can. I've tried all the products. I'm ready to go.
What do you got? What do you got for us first?
All right. So a lot of people tend to want science when they look into things. I don't. I want feel. So the thing I found kind of very interesting is the beard growth support, which is mostly biotin. Biotin's pretty good for the body. And I felt pretty good about taking these each day. I just dropped one into my lap. Still going to taste good. So I would take 2 a day and feel like it's a vitamin to help grow the beard. Now, there's 2 other kind of beard growth products that they have. The Mega Beard Growth Oil and the Biotin Beard Growth Spray. So I did try to chart from when I started up till when I shaved to the dude. One thing I noticed is I'm getting more silver hair, so that might be from aging. But I actually do think the products work, meaning I felt like my beard, which is normally, well, people divide themselves, facial hair dudes divide themselves into 2 categories stuff. People with those scraggly, like deliverance beards who've just given up on ever getting laid again. And then what we used to call metrosexuals 10 years ago, but now it's just called manliness, where you have to groom and eat facial hair, both so you can eat hummus or soup in public if you have a mustache, and also to make it look good to the gender of your choice. So I kind of like these products because they made me, I do almost no grooming, as you can see from my dreadlocks. So they made me feel like I was invested in facial hair for New York dating and whatnot. So I like the feel after 3 weeks of what was happening with the beard growth oil and spray.
Do they smell good?
The beard growth oil, these aren't really the smell products. These are strictly like tonics to help you get a fuller, beard, because you want, tuggability is like a factor, not only in the BDS community, but just in general. You want to feel like I'm firmly rooted in the earthly plane. But the smelling products, and this is my favorite one, so is the Beardgasm shampoo and conditioner. I will say there's a huge divide, and I've tried beard wash products before from reputable companies, and they're always thin, and they're meant to be like perfuming and smell good, even though they just wash out. I actually think this cedar and citrus, which smells good, is like the right shampoo for a beard, because you need a base of it kind of getting in to the follicles, and then it washes out. And that's what makes your ability to actually comb it and groom it possible. So if I have to choose, I have 2 favorite products, but this is one of them from Drew's company, the Beardgasm shampoo and conditioner. I've never been happy with a strictly facial hair shampoo conditioner, and this is definitely the one for me. So I'm huge fan of this. This one, though, is what you use after you've showered up, which is the balm, the beard balm. So you can see it's kind of like, it's not super firm, because what you do is you rub it on your fingernails and then you work it in. And this is how you shape things. You would, so like I can go to like a very like, Russian villain, or like an evil, like just by making a point there. So this is definitely good. It's got hold, smells pretty good. Very, not too floral. So those are the beard products. And then you would, and I'm a fan. So I like all this, because the biggest thing you're looking for is like pre-date kind of preparation. Gone are the days for me, of fixing my hair. It looks like this all the time. So the only thing I groom up on is the beard and stash.
All right. So what about heading down below? What about the?
All right. So I find this fascinating. So we live in a world. So there's Rob Gronkowski, Gronk from the Patriots and Buccaneers, and Badlands Booker of Badlands Chugs are the 2 guys who are repped by Manscaping. Manscaping is the company you see advertised that insists you've got to groom down below, which I think as guys, we all agree you must. But there are so few products that mirror, call it feminine hygiene for the male. So the Balgasmic Sack Wash, which has got activated charcoal. I've been seeing activated charcoal in a lot of products, from toothpaste to dental floss. It basically is pitch black, so it just makes everything black. I actually dropped this in the shower, and it orgasmed all over the shower curtain. It was very disturbing looking. It looked like something out of Stranger Things. But the truth of the matter is, do we need just a ball wash? I mean, it's called a French horse bath when you just do your genitals. So I liked it. I liked it.
I'm a fan of it. I like the smell of that stuff.
The thing that I think is interesting is I did want to test this out, but I am in dating. It's very hard to get to the smell my balls stage of the relationship. It's not a first date or second date thing. So this has a lot of stuff in it, from aloe to oils that kind of make your lower region, your bathing suit region, feel pretty good. So I liked it, but I absolutely loved this Happy Sack Nut Soothing Cream.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what it is about, like, why don't we have this in history? Like, you get out of the shower, you deodorant everything else. Like, your most important as a dude, it's, you know, it's all down there. So like putting this on, I not only felt refreshed because it's cooling and tingling, I felt ultra confident. Like I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever the world throws at me.
What's your favorite Derm Dude product?
Absolutely the Beardgasm shampoo and conditioner works. We need a better. There's nothing I've had on the market that actually works as a beard shampoo, and I've tried a whole bunch. So that's solid. And then this, even if I don't have a date, like the Happy Sack cream, part of my daily routine, I'm just like, yeah, this is good. My balls feel good. I'm ready to go.
All right. So there you have it, folks. There's our review from the man on the street.
I wouldn't wear the hat if I didn't believe Duff. I did have to modify it so it fits.
There we go.
But
He's
there
got
it is.
The Derm Dude hat.
The Derm Dude hat. I've been channeling the dude in many capacities, and now I'm channeling the Derm Dude.
Thank you very much, Crazy Legs. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Duff.
All righty then. So that's Crazy Legs Conti. It's a review of Derm Dude. All right, I've got one for you. Actually, I have two for you. So in this class I'm taking, the Oribindo class, the other day somebody brought up an interesting point. So in a lot of yoga and a lot of spiritual writings, they talk about the difference between being and becoming, right? You're in the becoming and you're being, but somebody pointed out the fact that being is both a noun and a verb, right? And it basically gets at the essence of yoga, right? There's the part of you that is eternal. The being that you are, that is the noun, right? And then there's the part of you that is active in the becoming. That is the verb for being. So it's a, are there a lot of words that are nouns and verbs? I don't even know that. Probably, right?
I would say that tens of thousands, all of them. Yeah. No.
Okay. All right. So here's
but it's because, like, were you thinking of becoming as a noun though? Is that where you were? Is that where you're going with that?
Being. So you are a being, and when you are in your existence, you are being, right? Being is a verb.
But I was saying you could take becoming and you could noun that. See, I just used noun as a verb.
The becoming. Yeah. Okay. So then it's all of them. All right. So I got another one for you. So I am now firmly of the belief, through my own personal experiences in the last couple of years, that everything is connected, not just simple causality. Every single thing is connected, spatially, temporally, every which way, right? It's all one thing. And I was reading something, and I read the word coincidence. And so when we talk normally about things being coincidental, right? Essentially the meaning means they happened in proximity to each other, but they're not related. It was a coincidence. It was simply a coincidence.
Yeah, that would be the common kind of connotation for sure. Coincident. for a coincidence. Yeah.
So essentially what we're talking about is two things that, let's just say for argument's sake, happened or were occurring at roughly the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know, we don't think they're related, so we call them coincidental. And all we're saying is, yes, same time, but that's the only connection. And I would argue that the only things that we think are coincidences, we call something a coincidence just because we don't understand how they're related, right? We decide that they're not, so we call them coincidental, but that's just a lack of understanding because everything is connected, every single thing.
Yeah, no, I like that one. I feel like that's people imposing also the unrelatedness part on it, because coincident, it's actually a math term, right? Like you can have incidental points in like Cartesian space, right?
Okay.
And if they're coincidental, then they just exist at the same time in the same space at the same, at once. So
right, and you could
say, oh, that was just a coincidence, meaning like, oh, that was just, it happened by accident, or you could just observe like, well, actually, they just happened at the same time, the same space.
Right,
like,
so we think it's an accident, but like they're related in the fact that they both happened at the same time. They're not unrelated. Temporally, they're totally related. So I think we sort of confuse ourselves with that term. All right, so Ori Bindo, I tried to get a short one for you today. This is from his book, Essays on the Gita. And it tees off of Drew Plotkin a little bit because he was talking about how his tattoos gave him insight into who he was and sort of what he's made of himself. So he's talking here about the difference between spiritual life and what is, the alternative, which is the external life, which is where the dualities are, right? So back to my point about one thing. If everything's one thing, there are no dualities. That's in the spirit. In the external world, we think things are different. So we think this, that, hotter, colder, better, worse. In the manifestation, basically everything becomes a set of relationships, which is the duality. So he says here, in the spiritual life, all the external distinctions of which men make so much, because they appeal with an oppressive force to the outward mind, cease before the equality of the divine light and the wide omnipotence of an impartial power. The earthly world, preoccupied with the dualities and bound to the immediate transient relations of the hour and the moment, is for man a world of struggle, suffering, and sorrow. The way to liberation is to turn from the outward life to the inward, from the appearance created by the material life, which lays its burden on the mind and imprisons it in the grooves of the life and the body, to the divine reality which waits to manifest itself through the freedom of the spirit. Look within. Matt is stunned.
I'm stunned. No, I was just thinking, is it coincidence or is it pronounced coinkydink?
That could be a new product name for Derm Dude. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with you in a week.
Bye-bye.
At the present moment, traveling town to town, the mystery of the motion, right here, right now, right here, right now, whoa, right here, right now.
You've been listening to How to Tickle Yourself with your hosts Duff McDonald and Matt McButter. You can help us by liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with others. You can talk to us and see what else is happening on Instagram and Facebook at How to Tickle Yourself. This program was recorded in Studio B of the historic Rockledge Recording Studio and the Tunnel Under Arundel.
Right Here, Right Now, our original 16-part theme music, was written and recorded by the legendary Paul Reddick and Kyle Ferguson of the Sidemen, with the brilliant Steve Mariner on bass and drums and in the mixing room. The podcast is produced and distributed by Storic Media. Our editor is Andrew Steiner. Our coordinator is Samantha Abramovitz. Our producers are Kristen Verbitsky and Chuck LaBella. For more information, visit storicmedia.com. That's STORIC media.com.
My love, my dear. Oh, everything's connected. This life, this world, it's all